Hello, Yomalies. Welcome to the Naked Mennonite. I am your host, Stephen Harder. Those who have been following along my channel might have picked up on some of my history as a closeted Christian, specifically how deep I went down the ex-gay ministry path. It was a difficult, embarrassing time for me. Well, recently, I came across a video that brought me right back to my 20s when I was looking so hard to God to save me from my struggles with homosexuality. Like, this guy could have been me if I was born in this millennium. So I thought it would be interesting to have a little retrospective to hear what old me would have said and what now me would say to him. So let's hear what Taylor Simon Maxwell has to say, and if he has a more nuanced understanding of human sexuality than I did 20 years ago in his video, Ex-Gays in the Bible No One Talks About. Take it away, Taylor.
I bet you're probably wondering by the title of this video, what is he talking about?
No, I think it's pretty clear what your title is saying. I think it's your justification for the points that you're going to make that will have people scratching their heads.
Today I'm going to be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 6.
Oh, goody. Yes, let's learn about sexual ethics from the guy in the Bible who admittedly didn't like sex. Perfect. I can't wait.
By the way, I did not mention this before. I'm reading from the NLT version. There are multiple versions. This is the NLT. And so just to give you guys a little context, Corinth was known for having lots of sexual deviancy and immorality.
Oh, careful, Timmy. Don't fall into that well. It's poisoned. That is such a subjective observation. What one person calls deviancy and immorality, another person calls a fun Saturday night. But I guess objectivity is a little bit too much to ask for.
So let's stop there. Sexual sin, pornography, masturbation.
I remember this one time in the early 2000s. I was doing an online purity program designed for men struggling with their sexual sins, and it was run by these volunteer mentors, which says a lot right there. And they made such a big deal over how sinful it was to shake hands with the milkman. Like it was in the list of sins that you needed to journal about and confess and repent to God and your mentor over. And I kept asking, where in the Bible does it say that it is wrong to strangle the goose? And they just kept saying it is wrong, and you just have to accept that. And I kept on asking, and eventually I got kicked out of the program on the grounds that I wasn't truly broken before God. And that was devastating because I wanted to understand, and I would not accept because I say so as an adequate answer. And because of that, I wasn't spiritual enough because I didn't just do what the authorities told me. And it's just such really gross mental, emotional abuse to inflict upon an earnest young man who is just trying to do what he thinks is right. And especially for an earnest young man who is looking for men to validate him and help him meet the standards that they've set. It's just so toxic and abusive. So I feel for this Taylor guy. I really do. He's clearly stuck in the trap that I was stuck in. This is just so familiar.
Fornication, sex outside of marriage, adultery, sleeping with somebody outside of your marriage, lustful thoughts.
It's the thought policing that really gets to me. It's so unhealthy, so widespread. As if the thoughts that percolate up from your subconscious can somehow condemn you. It's just gross. Thoughts are just thoughts. It's what you do with them that matter.
Lustful thoughts, etc. Pause. He's laying it out because he's saying if you're going to live this way, then you're literally prohibiting yourself from walking in what God has for you.
Well, maybe if God wanted me to have this special thing, he shouldn't have put it at the end of a long list of things I can't control.
Before we go forward anymore, what I really just want to focus on is the part about homosexuality. It says practice homosexuality.
Okay, I don't practice homosexuality. It turns out I'm just naturally really good at it. No practice required.
It says practice homosexuality. It means to do. You're doing something.
Hey. I am not doing something. I'm doing someone. He has a name. And usually it's Daddy.
And so this word practice is very, very, very,
Very?
very important to take note of, because it's not saying that if you were born homosexual, don't act on it.
On this, we can agree. Yes, absolutely. I am in 100% agreement. This passage is not saying that anyone was born a homosexual. Yes. Preach, brother, preach. You will not find a passage anywhere in the Bible that says that anyone was born homosexual, or an astronaut, or a Twitch streamer, or conservative, or liberal, because those ideas didn't exist 2,000 years ago. It was a foreign idea. It had not developed yet. There were no homosexuals. There were no pansexuals. There were no asexuals. There were no heterosexuals 2,000 years ago. There were just people. And they enjoyed having sex. Sometimes men enjoyed having sex with women. Sometimes they enjoyed having sex with men. What women enjoyed didn't matter back then. It wasn't the identity marker that it is now, and it is just so dishonest to try to insert that thinking into the text. The text doesn't condone homosexuality, and accordingly, it doesn't condemn it either, because it just wasn't there. Look up the film 1946. Apparently, they do a really good job of explaining how the word homosexual got inserted into passages like this one. I can't vouch for it personally because I haven't watched it, because I no longer care what the Bible says, especially about sexuality.
It's saying practice homosexuality.
Okay, just give me a second here to bust out my Bible college education here. If you're going to drill down on a specific word in a passage, you probably don't want to be using a Bible like the New Living Translation. One way that the NLT is different from other translations, like the NIV or the KJV, is that the translators determined amongst themselves what passages mean, and then they allow that meaning to guide their word choices, as opposed to other translations that focus on translating words over exactly, and then allowing the meaning to be constructed around the word equivalents that they've used. So if you're going to drill down on the word practice, it would be wise for you to go back to the original Greek, see what it says there, and determine for yourself what the idea being espoused is. So that means, what would you do? You'd go to an NASB, I guess, and figure out what word was used in order to give the NLT translators the idea of being practiced, and find out the Greek equivalent of the word practice, and then determine what exactly the meaning of that particular Greek word would have been. And I can do that for you, but I don't want to, because I don't care about what the Bible says, especially in terms of homosexuality. I'm starting to repeat myself now. But if you care, then you should at least do your homework. Or you could also just ape back the talking points that all the cishet men in your church want you to believe. Your call.
And so right there, it is saying there's a choice to be made.
Again, that passage is talking about an act. It's not talking about an identity that didn't even exist in that culture. Context is so important. I'm not even talking about the context of a verse in a chapter, or a chapter in a passage of chapters, or chapters in a book, or a book within the whole context of the Bible. I'm talking about context within a cultural, societal sense. Let me show you what happens when you take something out of context.
Practice watching homosexual porn. Practice having sex with someone of your own gender. Practice lusting after somebody of your own gender. Practice masturbating and thinking of someone of your own gender. Practice going on Grindr or Tinder.
See? The meaning totally gets messed up. So stop pretending that this letter was written to an audience in our culture.
But verse 11, this is the gospel message right here.
I'm just going to say that you and I have very different understandings of the gospel message.
Pause. Some of you were once like that. Some of you were like that. It's the past tense. It's saying you were like that.
But my guy, that's the emphasis that you're adding, right? That emphasis isn't actually there in the text. And anyone can add emphasis to anything and change its meaning. Watch. Some of you were like that. See how the meaning changes? Some of you were like that. You weren't exactly that, but you were like it. See how changing where you place the emphasis can change the meaning of the sentence that you're reading? Now your point is completely undermined if we use my emphasis, and a point that doesn't even make sense because back then your sexual actions didn't impact your identity like it does today. Ugh, just repeating myself so much.
Well, what does that mean? That literally means Paul is speaking to people in Corinth and addressing that they used to practice these sins. There are people who were practicing homosexuality. They were living what we would call today the homosexual lifestyle.
No, they weren't.
And it says, some of you were once like that. Some of you were once gay.
No, it doesn't.
Some of you were once living the lifestyle of homosexuality.
That's the meaning you're inserting in.
Some of you were once watching gay porn. Some of you were once hooking up with guys.
You doing okay, my guy? Because you sound a lot like I used to. And when I sounded like that, I wasn't doing okay.
Some of you used to be gay. But you were cleansed. Cleansed by the sacrifice of Jesus' blood on the cross.
So here's one of the hardest parts about being a Christian in the closet, is that you have to work so hard to present yourself in a way that all these cis-het men want to see you. Because what they expect doesn't resonate with who you are inside. So you learn how to put on that show. You learn how to make it sound like something is really deep and really meaningful to you. Because if you fake it long enough, maybe just one day, it'll all make sense. And you ignore the fact that you're talking about cleaning something with blood. Like, it's so gross. But once you're in that trap, I remember recently I had some JWs come to my door and they were talking about how beautiful the image of being cleansed by Jesus' blood was. And I told them to give their head a shake. When is washing anything in blood beautiful? Just stop. Stop and listen to yourself for a second. It's the year 2025. When do we wash anything in blood? It is so barbaric. And yes, it made sense thousands of years ago. It doesn't make sense today. Just listen. Listen to yourself.
That means that at one point, these people weren't right with God. They were enemies of God. When you reject God, you are his enemy.
I'll remember that for later.
You can be set free from the labels of the world. You can be set free from the identifying markers of the world that are shallow.
I have come to appreciate that the labels that I temporarily affix to myself are the most meaningful forms of self-expression I can have, even if they are temporary, even if they are something that I will eventually grow out of. Because it's honest. It is an honest reflection of my self-assessment. You want to know what's shallow and inane? How about the labels that the church places on you? Child of God. What the hell is that even supposed to mean? I thought Jesus was God's child, but also God. And we are also the children of God, but not the children of man. Like what? Sanctified, redeemed, doesn't mean anything unless you give it some sort of like abstract meaning. It's just so inane and so useless.
Your identity was never meant to be in homosexual.
No, of course, homosexual is not our identity any more than me putting in 234 hours into Fire Emblem Three Houses makes my identity Dedue's lover. Is it a facet of me? Yes, absolutely, but I am so much more. We are all complex prisms of concepts, and sexuality is just one single facet, and it is so gross to reduce someone to simply their sexual proclivities as seen as a binary. My identity isn't homosexual. It is just one small piece of the beautiful tapestry that I am.
I don't know about you, but that is the most beautiful, hopeful thing I've ever heard in my whole entire life, in my whole entire existence.
Oh, I understand that hope that he's talking about so hard. You so badly want these straight Christian men in the church to validate you and to respect you. You want to be them because you've been raised in a heteronormative world that says that this is who you're supposed to be. And these guys, they're dangling the keys saying, if you want to be straight like me, you're going to have to do this, this, and this. And you know that you just can't naturally do it the way that you do it. And when you come face to face with that realization, all that's left to do is to give it over to God and to let Him work His miracle. That's the only hope you've got. And until then, you just fake it till you make it. Ugh.
So yes, there are ex-gays in the Bible.
No, there aren't.
And if you don't believe me, read it for yourself.
You just read it and you missed the point entirely. I don't think me reading it is going to change anything.
Read it for yourself.
No! Why do you keep repeating yourself so much?
Change is possible.
Yes, absolutely. Things can change 100%. And the greatest freedom that I have ever found was in the fact that I don't need to change. That I am fine just how I am, just where I am. That I will continue to improve. I will continue to grow. I will continue on this trajectory of development. But even if I didn't, even if I stopped exactly where I am here and now, who I am is enough. I am not broken. I am not my baggage. I am not defined by my scars. Yes, change is possible, and no, change is not required because I can love myself exactly where I am. Desire for manly affection notwithstanding. It can be a beautiful piece of me. It's not something I need to be ashamed of. And that is freedom.
People have been leaving homosexuality for a long time, for thousands and thousands of years.
No, my God, they haven't. Stop saying that. As an identity marker, homosexuality has only been around since the 19th century. Stop spitting out all these unfounded ex-gay ministry claims, please. Well, this has been a mouthful, but not in a good way. And we are only halfway done. So let's pause here. Take a moment to go make the bald man cry, and come back later to finish off this very honest look at who I was 20 years ago. Until then, this is Stephen Harder reminding you that underneath our clothes, we are all naked. I'll see you next time.